So, I sent Kiddo down for quiet time. I've taken off my glasses, massaged my temples, and the world's gone insane. I mean, it was kind of crazy before, but now it's like enhanced insanity. I don't know. I don't. I did end up commenting somewhere about Black Lives Matter, though, but it was more nuanced than for this or against it. I tried to explain why some people don't like it. Because, I'm a centrist. And the essence of the way that I talk about things is as a centrist. Like, hey, you're only talking about this side. Maybe try to understand the other side, because that's where peaceful communication happens. Whenever two sides, because at one point you have to stop fighting, sit down, and do what you should have done to begin with. Talk. Because you can't fight forever unless you want to become like Israel. Yeah, I went there. Israel has the Jewish people and the Muslim people have basically been at war for thousands of years. And I think the people today mostly fight because they don't know what else to do anymore. I hate to say it. I don't want to watch my country become like that. But if this doesn't end, it will. Or it'll just, I don't know, maybe it is better if it fractures off into smaller countries. Maybe it should have to begin with. Maybe the southern states should have never shackled the northern states should have never shackled the southern states to begin with, should have never restructured the federal government to give the federal government power over states in any situation other than what they originally were supposed to. Should never have decided that they own most of states' land and taken the teeth out of states. I mean, there are things that should not have been done, but were not because of slavery, but because the southern states that's where most of their economy was. Most of the economy was in the southern states. Most of the tax money that they got was in the southern states. And most of the farms didn't even use slaves. There's this image where all of the plantations used slaves. No. That was generally the corporations, the companies. People made companies and corporations. These existed even back then. You joined a guild, and that guild became something else. It was an earlier form of corporations. Little mom and pop farms that weren't part of a big conglomerate and were just kind of minding their own business were far more common. And they didn't usually use slaves. They usually just worked their own land or hired somebody to help them, or said, hey, you wanna sleep somewhere for free? Cool. Help me with my stuff. I'll give you some food, this will be like your allowance. It's not money, but it's something that you can trade for money. Or that you can trade for something that you can trade for money. It was always something. And nobody talks about this. Nobody. Except for people that are shouted down as racist now. And I'm like, but wait. there's some truth on both sides. It's just not always what people want you to think it is, and it's not always as much of what they want you to think it is either. Because, yes, there's still racism in this country. It's just, it's different in different areas. And also, racism, if you look at somebody and the only way that you can shout them down is to say, you don't understand because skin color, you're racist. If you're saying that people need help because skin color, you're racist. If you're saying that someone is less than you or you are more than them because skin color, racist. If you only care about something that happens to somebody because of the color of their skin, racist. If they have to be a certain color for you to care, you are goddamn racist. Anyway, originally Black Lives Matter was a movement, and by the way, it was actually disbanded. It was disbanded for political reasons, though, not necessarily racism. You see, Black Lives Matter originally went into poor communities and helped. Often the police are less attentive in such communities, irrespective of the shade of people's skin. And they basically, rather than being directly opposed to the police, they were in competition with them. Basically, they were doing their job. And this did not make the police look good, and that's actually probably why they ended up disbanded. Like any group, they had their fringe people. Some of those fringe people went into founding this newer group that used the same name. While some of the people that were more of what the group actually was back then were not. This was probably disbanded like before I was born. I don't remember the exact year. I think it was in the 80s though, and I was born in the late 80s, so maybe there was. Now I have to look it up. I'm gonna pause this. Okay, never mind. I think I'm mistaken on the year, but I literally can't find it anymore. It used to even be on the Wikipedia page. Now, everything's been edited. They're already editing out history. So I've never been good at dates whenever it comes to history, but to give you a rough. Black Lives Matter was known as an organization that went into poor communities and helped. If you were Latino, if you were pale, or what is known as white, despite the fact that this actually is an overgeneralization of multiple ethnic groups, it did not actually matter what the shade of your skin was. If you were hurt or abused by the local powers, they were inclined to help you because the moniker of Black Lives Matter meant Black Lives Matter too. That was it. It was basically, essentially, what they represented was that all lives mattered equally. Now, if you say that, words that they actually stood for with their actions back then, not this new group that took that name for all the goodwill that it had to go with it and took advantage of that. It was a sort of subterfuge. They're burying the old group with their own reputation now. See, I've seen the evidence that they ignore whenever the same things happen to pale-skinned little kids who have literally no organization that speaks up and says, hey, why are you targeting these kids? Because there aren't any organizations that specifically help little pale-skinned babies. They're the ones that help literally every other group. Everybody is out for themselves. So whenever we say, hey, nobody's helping our kids, nobody's helping us whenever shit happens to us, whenever we're discriminated against, what's going on here? All lives matter. Why are you such assholes? Why do you only care whenever it's the right skin color for you? Why are you so racist? Apparently that's hate. The truth hurts. If you can walk right by someone who is being hurt or be told, hey, this is happening, please help, but you literally will even openly only care whenever someone is the right skin color for you to care, honey, that's racism. And nothing you can say can make it not racism. It can just make you sound like classical racists who came before you. That's literally racism. There's... it's bad. Like, really bad. And it just creates more hate. The more you do this sort of thing, the more people hate you. The more people will attribute, hey, this person belonged to X group and they did X. I should hate all of these people that are part of X group. That's what happens. This literally stokes whatever racial tensions exist. And it's frustrating for me to watch. It's frustrating for me to look at. Like, I've actually tried to talk sense into people before on both sides. Because, like, I'm just, like, I know, like, the intention that some people have doing this is very good. They don't intend for this to create any sort of inequality whatsoever. They don't intend for anything. They literally just believe what they're being told. They haven't really thought about it. And sometimes people don't want to think about it. People can choose what they believe. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating. I got told once that I was advantaged because I had pale skin and white people have generational wealth. Your family has wealth. I have shit. I don't so much as have a family heirloom. What little I would have had, I was never given. It was never rightfully passed where it should have been. And all I would have gotten once some of the other stuff was given away was a ring and a necklace that had been passed down through the women in my family for a while. That's it. And all of us were supposed to get that. I think I was also supposed to get my mother's ring. But yeah, that was it. I didn't get any of it, not even my mother's. And that's the one I'm the most upset about, because that one is more important to me because it passed to my mother before she died. It had been hers. She wore it, it was part of her life, and I don't even have that. And that was